there's got to be a point in all of our lives when something happens and we become a seeker.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Seekers of the Eternal. It is long overdue, Chris. I feel like, well, it's the truth. We haven't spoken in this form in weeks, and I've missed you.
Yeah, man, I missed you too. It feels good to be back together again
It
doing
does.
this. I know we have so much that we can talk about and so much that we've all, we've been through since the last time we connected. So I think
Yeah.
this will be an interesting, fun episode. I don't know exactly where it's gonna go. I have notes. I have so many things that I've been thinking about during the time that I had, I've been out with COVID and I know you've been out with bronchitis.
Yeah.
And so those periods are always so potent for inner reflection and wrestling your demons and going through all these things, as well as so many other physical and challenging things that have come up in life. So I
Sure.
guess we'll just kind of get into all of that and see where this takes it, and hopefully this will be beneficial for everybody listening who's going through a
Yeah.
lot of things in their life right now.
And I think about the community a lot. We've launched, we've minted out the Genesis passes. We've built this great community of folks who have been so supportive of one another and of us, the founders, and our artists and our whole team. And but in the process, there's this lull between one mint and the Hanuman that's coming up. And when life happens, it really does pull us in all directions, and it gets eerily quiet even when you're part of this community. And I know that even for myself, I had to, take a step back from being in the Discord every day because of what we were working on behind the scenes, and then what I have going on in my personal life. So I think this podcast is really important because I think it's going to remind all of our seekers, who are part of the Seekers of the Eternal NFT project, and those who have just joined us on this journey, that we are still here, that we are still inspired, and we still are focused on building something really special.
I think it's times like these lull periods where I think a lot of the real work also gets done, um, because this thing that we're building here, this community, this project, it's happening in a way that is completely organic, and that's how we've set it up, where we don't sit around in a conference room. Here are our objectives, here's how we're going to make this successful, and blueprint that out and then go for it like a business plan, marching orders kind of a thing, where it's all laid out. And that's the way that I like to work, is to allow for creativity and inspiration to steer the ship. And that's also really a lot of what got me started thinking so much in these last weeks, this time period, about the hero's journey, this idea that has been so potent for my own quest in life. The first thing that really got me super intrigued about the spiritual world or the inner world was through Joseph Campbell. And so that a lot of that I've been sharing a little bit on the Discord with people, and through some different things, and with the meditation group that I've been working with. We've been talking a lot about these things, and it's resonating really hard with everybody that I'm talking to, and it's bringing up a lot of helpful things for me, and reminding me
Mm,
of where I came from, and the things that really got me excited when I was a younger artist. So and yeah, and by the way, both Jay and I are both kind of recovering from different, I had COVID, and I still got some lingering, congestion, and Jay's
likewise.
still struggling breathing and speaking. So we're doing our best today with it, even though we're both feeling good. And this lingering symptoms are hanging around.
Yeah.
But that's been a big thing for me. Like, and I know you have a lot of things to share too, of personal journey here with it. But I was feeling the same thing. It's like this project that we started, so much interest, and so, like the mint sells out in seconds and all of this kind of thing. and then there's this kind of period of creation, or like we're in a cocoon for a little bit, and this thing is turning into what it's going to become.
Yeah.
But the crickets and the all that kind of stuff in between, it's like, oh, what are, we have to do something. What are we doing? What am I got to finish this, got to like move faster or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just like the universe, just through sickness and through things like that, is just like, no, just slow down, relax, trust the thing that's been guiding you all along. It's
Yeah.
going to keep doing that, and then keep your mind open, keep going inward, keep asking, like, what am I supposed to be learning? Where does this want to go? Like, what wants to happen here? So
Mm.
I've been doing a lot of that.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I keep coming back to, and I have to almost keep reminding myself, is that the well runs deep. And so sometimes when you start to panic like that, like everything's kind of falling apart. I'm sick, my kids are sick, there's a death in my family. We have this incredible project. I have a number of other projects that I work on as an author. And sometimes there's a little bit of panic mode that sets in, where it's like, if I don't do this now, then then there's no more water left in the well. I only have this one shot at it. And the truth is, you can always go back to the well. There's always water. And I think everything seems to be really cyclical. And I'm starting to kind of see that now, like the journey's quest, like this hero's journey, this idea of getting to the mountaintop. It There's always a mountaintop, and you get to the top of it, you have to eventually come back down and climb another mountain. And I know that sometimes when you're when everything's hitting you really hard, you're just like, I just can't wait till all of this is behind you. And Tom Hanks, I saw an interview with him. They said, what is something that you wish that someone told you when you were younger? And he said, it's easy. He's like, this too shall pass. He's like, you're feeling great, this too shall pass. You feel like hell, this too shall pass. And just knowing, just having this constant reminder, there's ebbs and flows in this life. And when you're going through the war, sometimes it's hard to remember that.
That is the key. I think that really, that is a big key to life, is just, yeah, knowing when things are great, enjoying it, and being happy for that. Obviously when it's nice weather, and you're having good interactions with people, you're not worried about your finances. Like, enjoy those moments, and then when they change, also enjoy those moments too for what they are. Obviously these things encourage a good mood when things are going well, but that doesn't mean that you need them to be like that in
Yeah.
order to be content and happy and to live a fulfilling life. Because that's the thing that's guaranteed, is that it's going to change. It's going to be ups and downs. And
Yeah.
a lot of times in the downs, we learn so much more and grow so much more. So maybe those are the actual good moments in life.
Yeah. So I guess maybe, Chris, if you don't mind, you were just sharing before we started today, you were sharing with me, the event that you were at and all the prep that went into it, and the undertaking and responsibility, and then how it hit you and how that must have felt. And then, how do you feel now?
Yeah, that my brother and I got to record a podcast where we broke down all of this kind of stuff. But it was, yeah, like we were finishing up the finale event for this big mural festival that we do every year. This is year 8 of it, and there's so much that goes into getting it prepped. You have to set up so much stuff to make this go smooth, where you've got 15 artists, we've got international artists traveling, we've got artists from all over the US and locally as well. And setting up, having all the materials, having everything set up with the business owners and the building that it's going on, and the local community and the marketing, and all of that, the fundraising, everything. So my wife is a big part of that, and I help out. I've been like backing away more and more over the years, but I still, like, in the 2 weeks of putting it on, I'm in the trenches, and my brother is with me there as well. And so you're working really hard, and you're making sure that everybody has the big thing that we always want is to make sure that the artists are having a good time and enjoying being here with us. And so we do everything that we can to facilitate that. And so we go really hard, and then we try to put a really good a finale event where probably almost like a couple of thousand people usually show up to that at the
Wow.
end. And so when we set up a show where you have plans for it. We had a traveling artist, really good friend of mine that was going to be coming, and at the last minute she was having travel visa issues, so we had to scramble and put together a whole new show. So we had another artist friend of ours, Eric Jones. We worked connected with his gallery and got all of this work shipped in crates from California. And then I ended up putting work in, and, we were traveling to Miami and picking up work from another artist, Baghead. So it's like, there's all of it that it takes to like put one of these things on, and we're going strong at it and we're accomplishing all these things. And then the night when we're completing the gallery event, I still had about maybe 5 hours of work the next day. I was going to come in the morning and finish up. We transformed an old space, so like all the lighting is art, like really nice lighting that we had to wire up into the rafters and connect. And I'm doing black lights, and we're doing projections and all that stuff, so we have to transform the whole space, clean it
Wow.
up, turn it into like a really cool like space for people to come explore. And so we were doing that night, and then I walked outside and I just like started shivering and shake, and then realized, came home and tested and realized I had COVID. Luckily, nobody else at the festival. It's just my wife and I who we
Wow.
both got it, but nobody else that we know of came down with it. So that was a really cool blessing. But I guess it was
Mm.
just like, okay, you guys, time for you just to like be behind the scenes for a while. So that hit at a really interesting time where it's like you don't want it to happen. Then you've been working on this thing all year, and then right as you're about to go celebrate the finale, you have to just go home and sleep. So
Yeah.
that was a really it was a trip. I enjoyed at first the break, because I like to just go with, okay, this is what's happening. Quickly accept that this is happening. There's nothing you can do.
Mm.
That was also what's cool about COVID. It's like you say you got COVID, everybody just understands. Before it would be like, oh, you got a cold. What so you like it was more of a like you're weak if you don't just keep pushing
Right.
through. But here it's like, oh no, I got here it is. It says I have
Yeah,
this
that's
thing. I
right.
can't go outside.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it sucks. So you just say you got it, and then you get an excuse to go sleep. So I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna sleep. I'm pretty good at sleeping. I've been working really hard. So just for days, I just laid there, and I'm just like, oh, I would wake up and start thinking. I would use my meditation practice, just go back to sleep, go back to sleep. So
Wow. So that must have been so disappointing because you didn't get a chance to see the fruits of your labor to a degree.
yeah, I really wanted to be there for it. And that's always like the nice place where it's like, okay, we can all celebrate everything that we've done. We've got all these beautiful new murals in the downtown, and we've got all these artists that we've connected with and become friends with. And,
Yeah,
you send them off the next day and hug everybody and all that. And you just didn't get to do any of those things. So
that's
yeah,
right.
it's almost like you were never a part of it when
Right.
you just disappear like that.
So I guess, what was the greatest takeaway for you from that experience?
Man, there's so many. Like, I did share some of the stuff that I was going through in the last podcast, but in this, it keeps changing. So I think it'll lead us into what we're kind of gonna focus on today. Is it was really like as this lingering continuing COVID symptoms and this tiredness. I'm sure many people know about this feeling. It's like you're done, you're over the sickness, you're not contagious, you're out and doing stuff again, but you're just still like it feels harder,
Yeah.
everything just feels harder, and the world is like the dimmer is turned down on everything a bit. It's so much harder to like see the world in like the more brighter perspective that I'm used to. um, I wasn't able to do so with Kriya Yoga. The my main practice that I do, it's all about like actually going into a state of suspended animation and turning off all of rather than the energy flowing out to your limbs and your body, you focus all of the energy inward and then move it upwards, and you hold it here, and you actually like you stop the transmission of energy to your body. So they say it's
Mhm.
actually when you're sick, it's not a good idea to do Kriya Yoga because it'll impair your body's healing
Hmm.
physically. So I was just doing breath work exercises and some other guided meditations from my teachers and things. So I wasn't on my like full, like, all right, waking up, doing, like my full routine. And that's what provides me so much power and like, it's like, oh, I can do anything because I can wake up early. I can do my energization. I
Yeah.
do my Kriya Yoga. And then it's just like, go at it. So without that, it was like I was feeling so mortal. I was like feeling like my old self before, that had trouble waking up, that had trouble like going after my goals and my dreams, and
Yeah.
seeing, having vision and believing in myself. Like all that was just like wah wah,
Wow. Weighed you
yeah.
down.
And I think that's what sparked, like really digging deep and thinking about where I had come from, like how I got here. How did I get to this place where I'm actually really going after the hardest thing you could possibly do in life, which is to transcend the game and to seek enlightenment.
Yeah.
That's like the hardest mountain to climb. Like, and I was just like, how did I get here where this is like my main focus? And really going back and kind of thinking about the process. And it was really like coming back to me as like Joseph Campbell, like when I first heard about him and I heard about this new way of exploring mythology, because I'd always been interested in stories and myths, and seeing, I talk about seeing the sacred art in Thailand that
Mhm.
sparked these kind of things. And whenever I would see images of Hindu deities, it was just like, wow, what is that? What is
Right.
that? I wanted to know, what are these strange esoteric images and these stories and these
Yeah.
tales of, and so that was really what got me first super excited about exploring these things, and then realizing that they're metaphors for our inner world and the dragons and the monsters and all of our stories, and the heroes, like the heroes are really us, and the dragons are really just the things that are keeping us from becoming heroes.
Yeah.
And then that, as I was thinking more about that, I was just like, wow, I think this is the way maybe to bridge the gap between these seemingly complicated, you could call it like what we're doing with the Ramayana and and Hanuman and all this. Like there's unless you see it in the right way, it seems like this super foreign, maybe like you think of it as religious, or you have these like barriers that are like
Yeah.
keeping you from like understanding like the true beauty and power and
Yeah.
excitement that you can get from it for your life. um, so it really just like I was going back and looking at it in that way, and then I was like, man, I think I forgot, like, because I take this now as a sort of a prerequisite. I just figure everybody knows the hero's journey story. Everybody knows this Joseph Campbell stuff, and I forgot, like, nah, actually that's super niche. Like not everybody knows about
That's
this
right.
stuff. So I was like, let's take a step back and really explore it from like my earlier self when I was getting into it, and then try to just and I think with you and I being able to talk about it in this way, it's so easy to apply it to your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. I think, yeah, so maybe let's get into it a little bit, maybe just a quick overview and some of the lessons that you've taken away from it. I have obviously I've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks myself, but like you said, like you can cast your mind back to different experiences you've had in your life where you've slayed the dragon, so to speak, and there's always a bigger dragon. There's always something. And you know, the question is it's not a concern whether or not the dragon gets bigger. It's, from every journey that every battle you've had with a dragon and every journey that you've taken, what have you learned on the course of the journey? How have you developed yourself so that when you meet the next dragon, even though it seems more formidable to the average person, you face it with that much more courage because you've seen it before and you've learned from some of those other experiences. I think a lot of us, including myself, sometimes you go through the battle and you don't take the lesson. And so you have to end up going back and facing the same dragon. And sometimes a lesser dragon can defeat you because you get less confident and you don't have the same courage because you weren't really drawing any of the lessons from the experiences that you have had. So maybe we can set the tone for this conversation by maybe giving some context to it, and then we can talk about what those lessons are and maybe what's the best way to take some of these lessons and take away so you can be stronger for the next dragon.
Yeah, that's totally it, man. It's you stretch yourself a little more every time. And then when you have this framework to view what you're doing, it's so powerful to be able to even look at it this way or talk about it this way. There's like
Yeah.
this huge shift that happens in your life when now that you're seeing it this way. And and these stories about monsters and dragons are so helpful because we can just look at like, oh, this is a dragon.
Yeah.
I'm meant to overcome this thing. And the dragon is actually here to help me become better.
Right.
And it can be, like I as a just aesthetically, like I enjoy the demons and the darkness and all that kind of stuff. Like I think it has like this facing the darkness and finding the light, like the whole Star
Mm,
Wars of overcoming the darkness and finding the light. I love that kind of stuff.
yeah.
And I think the stories help us become brave and enjoy the process more because it gives us like a new perspective to look at it. But yeah, every time we overcome a new dragon, we take the full strength of that dragon, and now it's ours, and then now we get to aim at a bigger mountain, a bigger
Yeah.
mountain, a bigger mountain. And I mean, I love the idea too of the mountain. I talk about it a lot too. Of like, I love watching documentaries about like free solo mountain climbers,
Mm,
where this person is just 100% focused. If they even think about something else for a second, they're doomed, and you're just fully in the present moment. And you're just like, I mean, if you could back up and see yourself on this cliff edge, and they take those big pans back,
yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're close up on him watching us put his fingers in the cracks, and then it just zooms back and you're just on this like sheer vertical
Right.
cliff. And it just like, if you thought about that for 1 second, you would just like fall to your death. But
Yes.
so I use that in my meditation practice. Like I imagine that I am like the hero climbing this mountain and putting my full focus on it. I can be in this full present moment awareness, and then any sort of huge experience or mental dragon can show up, and it's like I'm unaffected by it. Like I've actually in the last it was right before I got sick, but it was really close around this time. I had started having these just really, I guess people maybe would call them panic attacks, but for me,
Mm,
I can focus and it's not a panic. I'm not panicking, but um, like a couple of times I wake up out of a deep sleep. And then for me, the experience goes, yeah, I have tinnitus in my ear, so I hear this ringing sound. So I wake up to this ringing sound, and then it just becomes louder and louder and louder and louder and louder until it just sounds like the entire universe is just like screaming and exploding. And I'm just in this state of like complete sheer terror. It just feels like I am experiencing the terror of the entire planet all at
uh-huh.
once. And with my meditation practice, like I practice for that whenever I have something like that happen, like I practice to be able to focus at the point between the eyebrows and chant Om.
Mm,
And so for me, like when that happens, I go, oh, we must have got hit by a meteor. Like maybe the house is on fire and I'm dying, and I'm just like completely okay with that. Like
Right.
I actually, from all of my hero's journeys into the world's unknown and the darkness, I'm actually completely, I can say like I welcome it, like if I go to and so I say in my mind, like, oh, I'm dying, like, oh, great. I'm dying. I'm chanting Om. I'm keeping my gaze uplifted at the point between the eyebrows. There's nothing better that could be happening right now,
Wow.
So I was that was another thing that I was learning during this process of going back and looking at the hero's journey. A lot of it is about like, going outside of the world that into the unknown world, and
Mm.
um, being brave and that sort of thing. And I was like, actually, you know what? Like, I'm way more comfortable going into the darkness of the inner world. I'm very comfortable in that place, like actually way more comfortable there than in the physical world.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's just I think I just have a um so I guess I would say, like, I was thinking about it a lot this morning. It was coming up in my meditation too, of uh because I sort of know what to do in that realm.
Mhm.
And I realized something that was coming to me. Maybe I haven't really talked about this ever, but maybe it'll come out while we're talking about it. Is
Sure.
in that realm, I know what to do. Like I have my practices, I have my guru, I have the teachings, I have these techniques that I've been working on. I have this ancient knowledge by awakened masters that say this is how to do it, and
Yeah.
and I've been training my mind to do it. So I just know what to do. I just go into my state and practice my techniques and
Mm.
tune into love, non-duality. You can chant the word Rama, which is the most ancient word for God, and you can focus on the light. You can focus on non-duality. You can focus on the goodness, which
Mm.
it just makes everything else irrelevant. There is no darkness when you're just completely focused on the goodness. So Yogananda says calmness is invincibility. With calmness, you can stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. So I'm just like, okay, the thing to do is to just remain calm. You chant your mantra, focus at the point between the eyebrows, and then let the world be destroyed. Okay,
Mm.
fine. And so I'm very comfortable doing that. But then when I find myself in the physical world, I realized, and this is during the sickness, I was realizing there's always there's this anxiety like running under the surface of my mind and in my heart, or something, just like
Mm.
I'm like nervous about the future, worried about what's going to happen, worried about my abilities, worried about like, I think a lot of it comes from, like, I was born with hip dysplasia, so like
Right.
physically I've always had a weakness. I'm kind of short, like kind of small person, like I'm not physically strong.
Mm.
um, I have a lot of trouble with like navigating directions. I'm
Mm.
bad with maps or like finding my way around places. I hate like thinking about money. I hate like negotiating money. I hate trying to get a good deal on something. you
Whatever
know,
they charge you, you're paying it.
yeah, like I love traveling, but I hate like getting out of the airport. You land in a foreign country, you get out and you just want to like you just want to get a car to your hotel, but you have to like deal with a person who's like trying to like rip you off like super hardcore because you don't know like how much of the currency translates to just yet.
Yeah.
And he's gonna like take you to a brothel karaoke bar because he gets a commission there instead of your hotel, and just like try to sell you on all these. And I just hate that. Like I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the world kind of feels like that to me a lot. It's just like a bunch of people trying to scam you or rip you off, and so
So you'd
I
rather wrestle with those inner demons than having to deal with some of the demons you have to face in the physical world.
Yeah, I feel like I'm more comfortable in that. But then it's also too, in the physical world, you're also around other people and friends of yours who so say if you drop me off in Thailand and I had nobody else to worry about, I would find my way where I need to go. I would meet the
Yes.
people that I would need to meet. I would like
Yes.
be fine.
Yep.
But if I was trying to do that with another person who didn't want to play the game on this level of like, let's just see what happens. Let's just trust our instincts. It'll all work out. It won't go the way we thought, but it'll be an adventure.
Yeah.
Like, so when my brother Matt and I, we play that game, like we do it like that. But my wife, who's like a master of the physical world, she can navigate the train station in China. She can figure out how to she her brain works like a supercomputer. It's always
Yeah.
like running the algorithm and then like, okay, this is the best choice to make in this scenario.
Yeah.
And so like we're like these two opposites, like she's running all those crunching those numbers where I can't even fathom like working in that way. And so it's just like I have this weird sort of disconnect between the spiritual realm and the physical
Mm.
world, and I'm trying to balance the two in a way that is like palatable for other human beings.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So when you think of the hero's journey, how would you define it in an elevator speech to people who are unfamiliar with it?
So the hero's journey, it was that term I believe was actually coined by Joseph Campbell. And in studying, comparing all of these myths from around the world through different times and cultures, seemingly maybe never even met each other, he started to realize that within all of these hero stories of heroes and villains and monsters and gods and goddesses, that there was always there's this same blueprint. There is this pattern that emerged.
Mm.
And he started to realize that there is this almost archetypal pattern that is within us as humans that gets expressed through our stories. And even if we don't have a culture of storytellers and poets and writers, then actually those things will come to you even in your dreams. That same archetypal story blueprint of the hero on a quest to
Mm.
overcome the dragon, to go beyond the known comfortable world into a new world of the unknown as this reluctant hero forced into it, and then to overcome, slay the dragon, gain favor of the gods and boons and inner gifts of new
Yeah.
spiritual understanding, um, new gifts to share with the world, and then to come back and to actually share those gifts
Yeah.
with the world. And that, he was saying, is this hero's journey story, and it's in every all of our popular books and novels and
Right.
movies.
So I think of okay, so the other side to it is we're also in a world where um it's like that first world mentality where you get this privilege to experience something where it's like I can get beat up and torn apart, but I live in a place that has the support systems and the resources that I need to get back on my feet. But we also live in a world where even in that environment where we live in a place where there's these support systems and the resources available to people, we see people fail miserably, and we see people going through the worst journey you've ever seen, and they get defeated by it. We see lots of homeless people, we see lots of folks, and I'm not talking about people with maybe mental health or mental illness who are dealing with variables that may be out of their control, but we've seen lots of people that just get defeated by the journey and still get up and try to get in there and slug it out, but just keep getting pushed back down. And there's those anomalies where it's the hardest journey ever, and they still come out, and we see them celebrated on TV and social media. But we also see a lot of people around us, and sometimes it's not just the person, a homeless person on the street that that you walk past, it's sometimes a family member or it's a friend who just seems to continuously be defeated. And sometimes that can infiltrate your mind where it's like, if this is all about slaying dragons, why are these dragons defeating these people around me? So how do we how do we how do we mesh the two? How do we, because I know for ourselves we're happy to be in this fight. But what about the people that we love, or maybe the people that we've witnessed that have been defeated by the dragon? How do we put that
Yeah.
into context?
Yeah, that's of course a big part of it. I think also too what we fail to realize a lot of times is these people that we see that are at the top of their game, how many times they've failed first before
Mm.
they actually got the movie deal or the book or novel published, or anybody ever took them seriously. So many times they had to fail before they got to where they are now. And athletes and everybody is like that. Myself included, like it's a big part of of my journey. I've always been someone, I think I've been pretty fearless. I think that's what sort of played into my, hold on one second.
Yeah.
I think what played into my fearlessness as an artist and as a psychedelic adventurer. I've always had this really kind of fearless mindset to just go out and go after what I want to do. Um, when I find out what that is, I've done these big projects. I've tried this before, as like trying to leap away from being a commercial illustrator.
Yeah.
Like I made that that's like my day job. That's what I went to school for. That's what I was gonna make my living on. But I was always trying to like go out beyond that. Um, so I did things where like I was doing hero's journey stuff with luchadors as characters in the myth. That was really what
Mm.
I was doing when I was working with the wrestlers and creating those characters and working with my friend to write the stories.
Yeah.
It was really the same thing. I was doing I wanted to write our own mythology with real life superheroes that you could watch battle in a ring, and then you could read the stories. And the idea was we were going to really continue on with this. This was going to be like a big thing. And um, I had done these shows, and I felt so good about what we were doing. I loved it so much, and it was getting so much, like, people that came to the shows really loved it. And the idea was that we were going to do these couple of shows. The first one that I did, it was like putting wrestling in the most beautiful places. So like I rented out a place that you would have like a nice wedding reception in, and then I got a wrestling school to come like set up the wrestling ring, and
Wow.
we set up all the lighting, and we had like professional sound. We had like, you could even, if it was too full inside, you could be outside watching it on like a big screen. We had
Yeah.
like real sports photographers and videographers recording it. We actually had a ring announcer that used to work for WWE, like in the ring
Oh, wow.
announcing. We've had, yeah, the thing was grand and huge. And the idea was that we were going to do these shows. And then I was actually working with Modelo at the time, the Cerveza beer
Mhm.
company, um, doing illustration work for them. So I was like, okay, they're going to sponsor this. Lucha Libre is going to be huge in America, like very soon. Like we're right at the cusp of this
Yeah.
thing. And I know that this would be huge. And I had another friend that was working in promotion and good at putting on big shows. And we were like scouting like giant stadiums to do these like big shows in and stuff,
Wow.
and to continue doing artwork with it. And I was 100% sure like that was what I was going to do with my life. Like we were going to
Wow.
like make these, real life superheroes and put on these, and they were going to be art shows. Um, so, but I did it, I did it once. Okay. We made these amazing pitch decks. We had all this stuff was like, so it was like, I was like, there's no way this is not going to work. Like here's what your advertising dream is, to like,
Yeah.
sell Mexican beer in America. Or, we were also pitching to Monster Energy and some other
Wow.
brands and things. It was like, this is perfect. Or Red Bull, like we have your whole like marketing for the year. Like, let's do this, you know? And that so the first one didn't work. So we didn't get the sponsorship with that one. So I was like, all right, let's do it bigger, better. We'll do it, do more. So, like I kept adding to it. The next one had like projection mapping, video like around all of the walls in the space. We transformed like 100-year-old theater. We had like lasers and fog machines. We had like
Wow.
live DJ that was making music. Like in Thailand, when we went to Thailand and watched kickboxing, they would have like a small band on the side. So when the action was happening, it was like a movie scene
No
with
way.
music, so it's like dun, 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 dun,
That's pretty
and
cool.
yeah, and the music would go up and down with the tempo of the match.
Wow.
So I worked with a DJ and showed him like what they were doing in Thailand, and it was like, yeah, let's match this with like music and sound effects and things like that. So it was like you were watching it happen in a movie, and
Yeah.
we had like ring announcers that were calling the match and telling everybody what the moves were. So it was a really exciting way to watch
Wow.
lucha. Um, and so it's like, okay, yeah, this next one, it's hot, is like everything that I wanted is in this. Like, this is it. We had amazing new costumes. I was working with a costume designer. She made these costumes where people were walking out like 10 feet tall on stilts, and it was just like amazing. So I was like, okay, this is gonna work. This is it. Everything again, like we pitched it for months and months and showing everybody this thing, and both times like huge complete like monetary failure,
No way. Who funds
yeah,
something like
like
that, Chris? Like who puts all the money in? Is that self-funded?
yeah, for me it was
Wow.
self-funded. Like I would I believed in it so much that it would be like, okay, I need this, I need the money to do this. And then as I would think about, this is what also too kind of got me hooked on working this way. um I would be like, all right, I need this amount of money to pull this thing off. And then I would just kind of like use my imagination, like, all right, this money is going to come in from somewhere. And then really quickly, within like a day or two, I would like get a email from my agent. Hey, we got this project, it needs to happen pretty fast, you can get 20 grand for it, whatever. And I'd be like, okay, sweet, cool,
There's
this
your
is it. And
money.
then I would just
Yeah.
bust my ass on doing this thing. I would get it. And then so I never saved any money really. I was always bad at like actually saving money, but I just always wanted to do
At least
something
you were
big.
trying to invest in yourself and your vision. That's pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah, I never had like an interest in spending money on stuff or like it would always be on an idea
Right.
or putting something on for people that to enjoy.
Right.
So I
But you're
did that
still
a
saying
couple
it
of times.
failed
Yeah.
a couple of times, and that's hard-earned money that you could have used for other things. So, okay, okay,
Yeah.
so I'm with you there. So then what?
Yeah, yeah, that was like I could have had money and be doing okay and just having my career. And of course, like that, it's like when you're married too and you're doing stuff like this, it doesn't go over that well. It's
No,
like,
my God.
okay, how do you just say like I want to keep trying when you just failed twice at two things that you thought you did to the best of your ability and you
Right.
thought you gave it everything that you got and it was exactly what you planned on doing and you did it against all obstacles. And so like it was a real huge like kick in the stomach for me, I
I
think,
bet.
having that happen. And then you question, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not, maybe the ideas that I have aren't like very good, or maybe it's the whatever you start to think about yourself.
Yeah.
And like so I've definitely had those times. And so it's always just like, okay, just go back to why don't you just go back to like drawing pictures for ads, or just doing the client projects. It's like it's so much less stress. It's so
Yeah.
much, I would just work so hard on like doing that stuff plus like putting on these events or whatever I was working on.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's like, why don't you just go back and do that? Like, forget about these loftier dreams. You're making art. You should be content with that. Just do that.
Yeah.
So I tried to do that for a little while. Like I was like, all right, just give up on that. Like I can't be just wasting money like this anymore and all
Mm,
my time. And and so I was doing that for a while. And that was, I think, where I had my breaking point in 2020 during the lockdowns, where I just like
mm.
I was actually still doing, I had really, even during that time, during the lockdowns, I was still getting good projects from my agent. I still had like big stuff coming through. I was doing like posters for Jimi Hendrix and was getting ones for Rush and different stuff, like all stuff I would like to do.
Yeah.
But I just like found myself like so much like wanting to do my own things. And I just like couldn't force myself to keep working on these commercial projects. Like I just didn't
Yeah.
have it in me to do it. So it was almost like that. So like this is like in this hero's journey thing, you get this call to adventure, whatever it is. Like it can be an inner turmoil, it can be some kind of crisis that happens to you in your life.
Yeah.
Just this call that's coming and you can't deny it, you know? And that was happening to me. Like I just was like sitting here trying to work on these things, and I'm like, I just can't force myself to do it. And then it started coming into my mind of like, I just want to work on sacred art. I only want to work on sacred art
Wow.
because my meditation practice during that time became so strong. Um, so it's like in between, letting go of my dreams for the lucha events, which now I actually look back on and I was like, I'm happy that my higher self didn't get me um, those sponsorships, because
Right.
it would have taken me off in a far left direction rather than the one that it took me to,
Yeah.
which was just okay. Now that I'm not doing all these projects, focus on your meditation practice.
Right.
And that's what I did. I put all that energy into focusing on meditation. I started meditating every day. When I meditated for every day for about a year, I then learned about my guru Yogananda and my path of Kriya Yoga, and I found that, and that was what was becoming so much more fulfilling.
Right.
And then having the pandemic lockdowns where now you can't go see your friends, now you don't have distractions, it's just you and
Yes.
your house. And that was when I was like, oh, this is perfect. I got Kriya initiation. And then I just started like putting all my extra time into meditation.
Wow. So that big loss, the couple of really big losses allowed you to almost find your focus. And I guess that's the beauty of the heroes. That's the essence of taking something away from the battle against, the dragon and finding the light in the darkness. Because now you have this phenomenal artistry that flows from you, with every Hanuman that you produce. With every gallery or mural that you're a part of or that you put together, it seems like it's coming from a very pure place. It's genuine, it's honest, it's sincere, you're passionate about it, and it resonates with everybody. And I think that's, to me, pretty cool. When you were talking about like there's a uniqueness of experience to obviously everyone's journey, but it's interwoven into every culture and every time and every place. We can all potentially be on this hero's journey. I think that the lessons and the achievements that you get on those hero's journey, if they're honest and they're genuine, they're instantaneously relatable to everybody on the planet. Like whether it's a piece of art or a book or a documentary or a TED talk, there's something so um, connective to for everyone. It's why certain videos go viral, or certain speeches or certain movies or books. They seem to resonate with cross culturally, like The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I think it when it's written, or when it's born from something so pure, when someone you can tell is just written from their heart or created from their heart, um, everyone is attracted to that. And so, yeah, I'm glad that I know that what you went through it was hard, but I'm glad that you went through the journey and that you were able to have some takeaways, because what you're producing now is something so special that it's not just for you, it's for all of us to be a part of, and that's kind of what Seekers of the Eternal is. It's kind of born from your pain to a degree.
Thank you for that. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that, and those insights are really valuable. And that's, yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. that approach to looking at it. Um, it- because that's also too what I realized that I was meant to be doing was to be creating things that, just like you said, that everybody could see it and then use it in their own life, to help other people with whatever art that we're making,
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
could be translatable to others in their journey. I feel like what was happening too as a crisis for me, it was just like making art. It can be such a ego trip,
Mm.
like, oh, I'm this person. I make this stuff. Like I develop this magic trick. Now I do this magic trick and everybody applauds it. You can get so hooked on your own ego and think you're
Yes.
so great. And
Yes.
what I think is really cool that's happening, and I've been with psychedelics, I think it gives you in meditation practice, you start to see like where the future is going earlier than maybe a lot of people around. Uh, I was just like so over, like, just make a cool picture, put it on Instagram, and get a lot of likes, and get commissions, and make something palatable that the most people will dig. But I just kept seeing like that's a really like a dying thing. Like if you think
Mm.
about right now, like jump even just back a few years to where we're at now, if you're an artist and you think you can get away with just making cool pictures and hiding behind that and like not letting anybody get to know you or your deeper message or your story or what you're trying to offer the world, it can't just be pictures anymore. It can't just be writing a song anymore. Even like this new era of the world, like it wants to know you, it wants to know your story, it wants to participate, it wants to, we have to have like a world that we're creating where others can join in with us. And I think that's sort of like a crisis that we all have to go through. I was having like a really difficult challenge, just like to stand out in this world where there's so many good artists, there's so many people making amazing stuff, and that clutter, everybody starts to feel it. Even like artists of mine that have been my heroes that I've been watching forever, like they're all feeling this same sort of like, you're just like a tiny little drop in the bucket of like all of this stuff in the world now. um and I actually got to a point in my life where I was like, okay, like, even I got to a point where it's like, even if I'm not an artist anymore, I'm okay with that, you know? Even if I totally lose my superpowers or nobody cares about like the artwork that I'm making, if everybody stops liking my posts or buying my stuff, I had to go through that as part of my hero's journey. I think that was maybe that venture out into the forest that was scary for me, was just
Yeah.
like, okay, imagine yourself as not doing that thing anymore. What if you don't need that as part of your identity? Would you still be okay with who you are?
Right.
And I came to terms with that and actually felt like really free. And then after that, I got more invigorated to start making art again.
Yeah.
And I think we all have to kind of like go through that too.
Yeah. I think and then coming to the realization that it doesn't have to be for everybody. Whatever we produce and create and put into this world, it doesn't have to be. It's not for everybody. It's for it's for someone and it's for a lot of people, but it's not for everyone. And it applies to everything: music, art, drama, stories, religion. It doesn't matter. It's everyone has these unique. And I think sometimes we get so caught up trying to be all things to all people, or to create something that everybody likes, or to say something that everyone agrees with. You can't go through this world trying to. I think that's actually the surest way to failure, is to try to please everybody. You just have to find a way to be true to yourself, and I think that you'll attract those people that you're supposed to attract. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's it. I actually wrote down a quote from Rumi that plays on this. This is from that documentary that I shared on the Discord called Finding Joe.
Yes.
Deepak Chopra had shared this quote. He said, I want to sing like birds sing, not worrying who listens or what they think. And how that really is the key. If we can do that, then we can do anything. If we can sing like birds sing, not worrying who listens or what they think. Um, Another quote from Joseph Campbell. He said, what will they think of me must be set aside for bliss. You know, like totally taking out of your mind, like, what will everybody think of me? Will they like this?
Mm,
If you want to follow your bliss, you have to completely like just remove that from your
yeah.
being.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of leads us into another part of we'll kind of like I think break down a more like put together a succinct like break down this hero's journey. This one, like we're getting into this, and I knew this was going to be kind of a raw episode where we're just kind of like sharing, and here's where things are at, and
Yeah.
it's all kind of like in this primordial ooze phase right now, and it's morphing into like what it's going to become.
Sure.
But with this, with this hero's journey, it's the separation, the initiation, and the return is the real pattern of every hero's journey. Um, I thought this was really cool. This was also in that documentary from Deepak Chopra talking about that there are these archetypes. There's these archetypal um, deities, characters in all of the hero's journey myths that go beyond, like, so Joseph Campbell talks a lot about the difference between archetypes in dreams, or dreams that you have that are just coming from your own personal psyche, your own personal
Mm,
fears. And then there are these archetypal dream patterns that you have, that I have, if that you could look back into history, look back into mythology, compare and find out what that dream is trying to tell you,
yeah.
because it's like something in our ancient DNA that is coming to the surface. But then there's also those other dreams where it's just difficult things in your life are coming up, and there are these weird wacky things. You can try to figure out what those are in other ways, but the archetypal dream patterns are common to us all. It's like
Yeah.
this collective unconscious that we can access. So Deepak Chopra, he said, archetypes are primordial encapsulated stories that act like seeds in our consciousness. When we tune into these mythical journeys, we plant this seed in our consciousness. Then that seed starts to sprout. As it sprouts, the patterning forces create the situations, circumstances, events, and relationships for the unfolding of the story in our own lives. So this, say if we're like looking into the Ramayana, the Ramayana story, we are planting this seed in our mind of these archetypal heroes' journey. That seed begins to sprout in our minds. And then as we put energy into this, we have interest in these things. As it sprouts, the patterning forces, synchronicities start to change, line up, that the situations, circumstances, events, and relationships in our own physical life start to match the pattern of the hero's journey myth that you've been tuning into.
Yeah.
And then you become the hero in the story. You use the story to guide you through your situations. You go, I'm going to be like the hero. That's a dragon. I'm meant to slay that dragon. Because you've been reading the myths, the story, you know what to do when the thing comes to you in your
Mm,
life. And that's how these have been used throughout the ages.
love that. I love the fact that we all seem to be connected. We can all draw strength from it. Do you know what I mean? Like this hero's journey. Somebody else has walked this before. Somebody else has slayed a dragon. That collective consciousness that we all have access to. I feel like we sometimes feel like we're on this road by ourselves. and it seems so long, right? My wife is different. My kids must be different. No one's going through this in their house. My job, no one has a boss like me. No one has the same level of response. No one went through what I went through as a child. I think you always kind of put things through your own filter. And the more you do that, you can feel very alone and the journey can seem long. And then other lessons that other people have learned and shared, that collective consciousness, you can't access it if you keep thinking that yours is so different. You have to
Mhm.
know that you have to remind yourself that we are all more alike than unalike, and that
Yeah.
those lessons that other people have like ancient traditions that people have journeyed through, these gurus and these awakened masters. It's like they're screaming they're screaming at us. You don't have to go through this alone. You don't have to learn this for the first time yourself. You can have access to all of this so that your journey doesn't feel so hard, and your dragon doesn't have to feel so big and so fierce.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. There's so much power in just knowing that.
Yeah.
And also, we think that nobody's watching our movie. Like,
Mm,
you know, God is watching your movie and is super entertained.
so true.
Watching it out of your eyes, actually, and
Yeah.
experiencing it through you. Like, that's why all of this exists, because God is actually just this is Yogananda calls it a nest of fun.
Mm,
And I keep getting this feeling that really there is only me in this whole thing. Like there is only one single consciousness.
mm,
And it just is, it thinks that it's all these different people. It thinks that it's
right.
like I'm separate from you. It thinks that is, but there is only one singular consciousness
Yeah.
watching the whole thing, experiencing the whole thing beyond space and time. So there's infinite time and space to explore and experience it all.
Mm,
Well, we just get tricked into thinking that, I'm just here by myself. I'm in my own thoughts. I have, there's, but it is really like just you exploring all of this. And actually, when you wake up, everybody wakes up. Like the whole thing wakes up. It just
yeah.
like, it's just you. You don't have to
Yes.
like convince anybody of anything. Or when you wake up, you see the whole world as beautiful and as everybody has one singular consciousness
Yeah.
and souls. And so don't worry so much about fixing the whole world, or just
Yeah.
just be the hero in the story, and then keep climbing bigger and bigger mountains. Like I
Yes.
had no idea that I was going towards seeking enlightenment in my life. Like I thought I was just gonna put on cool like art shows and do these things, and then it leads one mountain to the next, and then all of a sudden you're aiming at the biggest mountain.
Yeah.
So you don't know where it's gonna go. Just keep being the hero in the story.
Yeah. And I mean, like as a reminder, in Star Wars, that clip in the video that you had shared with me, when Luke Skywalker, he thinks it's the light versus the darkness, and he has to defeat Darth Vader. And when he finally does, and Darth Vader's mask comes on, he sees his own face. He says his father, and he sees himself in his father, and he realizes that he's been the greatest. He's been fighting himself the entire time. And it's that realization, I think, for all of us. All these external factors sometimes feel, we feel so far removed for them. Like, why is it happening to me? And we don't realize that, sometimes we create our own experiences. Maybe we create all of our experiences.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
We're co-creating this adventure with
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah,
That's what's the cool thing that you realize is that, I mean, it's terrifying because then now you're the one in charge. You're the one running the show. So if you don't like the way it is, the only person you can blame is yourself.
yeah. It's true.
I realize, like what I was saying is I realized that I had this underlying tension and anxiety and fear about the future of the physical world.
Mm,
That's going to manifest itself in my experience in the world. But if I spend some time during my day, like, okay, catch yourself like, okay, here's something we can all do. You catch yourself dooming, doom and gloom in your mind, worrying about the future. We all do it.
Yeah.
Like imagine like a warning light in your car. Whenever you're just going, am I feeling good right now? Like,
Mhm.
and if you're not, then then start imagining some, daydream about some cool possible future thing. Like daydream about some fantasy about something that could happen in your life that would be super cool and that you'd really enjoy,
Yeah.
and just spend more time doing that. Why don't we do that? Why do we misuse our memories to drudge up things that we don't like? Why do we use our wonderful imagination to imagine things going wrong and being
Yeah.
scared about everything? If you catch yourself doing that, this is what I'm trying to do, is just start purposefully think about like cool things that are going to happen, and then they
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't agree with that, try it, because what's the harm in it? I sometimes kind of feel like sometimes people are like, oh, that's you have such a having such an optimistic outlook or being positive all the time. Like things aren't like that in the real world. Well, it's still a choice. You still have a choice. I think perception and perspective is choice. And so
Mhm.
I've met people that have looked in the exact same situation in completely opposite ways, and I continue to do that throughout my life. Part of what I was dealing with in the last couple of weeks, that was the death of one of my great aunts, and talk about a hero, a phenomenal woman. She was born with CP. She's on this earth for over 70 plus years, and um, never complained once, had a tough life, never complained once. And she bowed out gracefully, but she had cancer, and she fought tooth and nail. And you could look at her life, you can look at her life and think, oh, what a shame. Or you can look at that life and think, what a beast. And like what an example that she set, for all of us. And again, it's all perspective. There's a sadness associated with it that I think everyone can relate to, but you know, you would hope that every experience in life, every hard the worst experience, teaches you something, or at least you choose to see something positive in it, because otherwise then what is it for? Why did that experience occur? Sometimes you have to, I hear that all the time, right? Like some people are like, things happen for a reason, and then it's like not everything happened for a reason, right? Like how can you say the Holocaust happened for a reason, or there's some atrocities that you can't necessarily understand, or maybe you'd hope that it wouldn't have had to be as bad as it was, but in any given situation, as dire as it is, there's some people who, if it wasn't as bad as it was, wouldn't have learned a specific lesson about it that helped to make this world a better place. So I think that we all have that choice regardless of the situation, and to take something of value. I think we have a responsibility to do that from our own personal journey as well as other journeys.
Yeah, that's beautiful insight, Jay. Thanks for sharing that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. It makes me think, one second. It makes me think back to this idea of trusting the universe. I remember a time where I didn't trust the universe because of the things that you're talking about, seeing the atrocities in the world, seeing that as soon as you land on the soil of this earth, you're fighting for your life. If you're an animal, a sea
Mm,
turtle,
it's
is
so true.
born and then just has to swim out into the ocean and all these predators, and it just feels like that. This is a world, like Joseph Campbell says, this is a world of that life feeds on life.
Yeah.
This is a meat grinder. This is not for the faint of heart. Like this
Yeah.
life here on earth is a duality. Every up is a down. Every time you have a triumph, there's going to be a failure behind
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Every time so this world is I didn't trust it, and I didn't trust whoever was in charge of it. Fuck that. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
that's the way that I felt. Like I, anybody that was worshiping or bowing to this thing, or like, worshiping God or praying to God, just like, you're crazy. This thing, and then you see like the people that are doing that are so invested in war and conflict, and
Yeah.
like,
Like,
I just.
yeah, your guide is
Mhm.
asleep at the wheel. Yeah. No
Yeah.
one's paying attention down here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then little of all would he care about me,
Yeah.
as like there's just billions of us out here. Like, you think he's listening to me?
Mm.
Um, so I had like a real, like, I was just actually really angry at the whole thing, and didn't trust it. But I was still very interested as soon as I learned about psilocybin and DMT. I started exploring those things, and I
Mm.
was faced with the most terrible darkness. Like, I was faced with also beauty and light.
Yeah.
I was finding that when I would go through the darkness, then I would like discover such bliss on the other end of it. Like, if I could hold strong, like if I could stay calm through it, or if I would just go through tough times. So that was what my trips were like. I would just go through really tough times, and at the other end of it would be just incredible bliss and beauty. And I would
Mm.
have days and days afterwards where I was just glowing, and I could do anything. Like, everything seemed simple and easy for days. Like, I would have this afterglow of creative highs, and nothing could, anything could happen to me. People could say anything they wanted to me, nothing would affect me. And I would just like, wow, like, this is really cool. And I just ended up, I would describe it as like, when I would do these psychedelic journeys, and when I started doing them too, I Terrence McKenna was my guy. Like, and he's the one he's the one that always was just talking about how most people, the problem with the psychedelics is it's not that they're doing too much, it's they're doing far too little doses. And so I was really following his guidance, and I was doing these really like heroic, they call it heroic doses, which is
Mm.
interesting too, because if you're doing heroic doses, you're going to go on a hero's journey. You're going to see all of the drag, you're going to see a dragon, you're going to have to overcome the dragon, you're going to have to be heroic and brave, and you're going to get a gift boon from the god, and then the idea is that you're supposed to bring that back. And I really started seeing my life as an artist as this is what artists are supposed to do. We're
Mm.
supposed to go out into the darkness. We're supposed to face our fears and our demons, and go off into the wilderness of the unknown and bring something back for other people to see, and to spark some sort of waking, like, I think artists similar to, I saw this old show. It was on HBO. It's called Carnival. The last
Carnival. Okay.
episode, Carnival. Yeah, it was about this sideshow, traveling sideshow in the early days.
Mm.
The last episode, um, one of the characters said, said they ended it somewhere like something along the lines of this. It's like, the world is sleepwalking, and we come to wake them up. So like, this
Mm.
small town doesn't ever see anything interesting, always doing the same thing over and over, just stuck in a trance. And then all of a sudden, this traveling carnival show of sideshow freaks, and bearded women, and people that can lift incredible amounts of weight, and all this kind of stuff. And then for a second, they're just awake, paying attention in the present moment. Like, wow. So I feel like that's what an artist is supposed to do. You're supposed to
Mm.
go out, find these things unknown, these strange new worlds, and then come back and share it. And then for a minute, somebody is looking at what you did, and they have a minute of waking up from the trance and thinking,
Mm.
maybe there's more to this life than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that share.
Mm.
Carnival. Maybe I should watch that.
Yeah, it was cool. I was really hooked on it back in that was like when DVDs would come in the mail. My wife and
Oh
I would
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
wait for the DVD and then watch it, and then wait for the next one. Um, but I guess at the end of that whole story is what I have now is I have a complete, full, 100% faith, trust in the universe, and I think God
Mm.
is love. So,
Yeah. Well, that's a
uh,
incredible place to be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what gives me the courage of being in these spiritual realms or going deep into meditation. Yogananda says that the only thing that stands in the way of us and divinity is our spiritual unadventurousness.
Mm, mm,
So the more adventurous we are in physical life and in our meditations, if we're unafraid of what's behind the dark, because it's like that Sesame Street book. You flip through the whole thing, and at the end, it's a mirror, and it says the only monster in this book is you. I don't know if you've seen
yes,
that, the
yes, yes,
Grover.
yes,
I remember that as a kid. It's like there's a monster at the end of this story. Don't turn the page. Don't turn the page. And then it's just like a little mirror at the end, and
yes,
it's like the
yes,
only monster is you.
yeah,
And that's really what you learn, is that you're the only one holding the keys that are keeping you locked in your prison.
yeah,
You're the only one that is um, seeing the world in this way, and that's why it is this way.
yeah, yeah.
So you can free yourself, and then I practice in my meditation freeing everybody. At the end, I get into like a state of feeling bliss and love, and then I sit and then I share it with the entire world. Any receptive hearts that could feel it at that moment, I imagine them getting this sense of well-being and love and light washing over them and becoming more peaceful, more loving, more
Oh, I love
harmonious.
that.
The plants and the animals and the oceans and the rivers and the lakes, and I keep moving it back in my mind until I just see Mother Earth like floating in space with this
Yeah,
iridescent rainbow light around her, and she's just glowing and healing, and that
I
we
love
have
that.
to allow the world to heal and to glow, or else it's going to go exactly the way we think it's going to
Yes,
go.
and I think if you're conscious of that, um, if you're conscious of that and in your own life, then you become that for everybody else around you. So meaning that if I can find a way to be proud of the way that I wake up every morning and I perceive the world, the way that I interact with it, the way that I um, you know, um, find productivity every day and bring meaning to my time and what I'm doing, then that will create something within you that's extremely positive, and it will emit that to every relationship that you have in your life, whether it's with your spouse or with your children or with your friends or coworkers. If you're engaging in an activity that's not like a dopamine kind of hit, meaning that like I don't go and I don't the way that I feel isn't determined by whether or not I hit it big at the slots and at the slot machine today at the casino. I think that's that dopamine hit. You get a lot of money, you're going to come back and treat everyone like $1 million. You lose a lot of money, everyone's an enemy. Everyone's wasting your time. Everyone's becoming very irritating all of a sudden. I think that you're gambling with if you're gambling with your energy every day, then you're gambling with everyone else's around you. But if you have a focused approach to doing things that I think bring light to this world, it brings light to your life, and then you bring light to other people's lives. And I think that might be kind of, maybe the secret to, you know, um, creating the kind of journey that you'd be proud of.
Yeah, man, that's it. And that follows right in line with this Joseph Campbell hero's journey ideas. You go out, you do, because what it takes to get to a place in your life where you're actually doing, spending your time, investing your time in things that are actually going to bring you true fulfillment, contentment in life, that are in harmony with your dharma, what you're meant to, that your soul wants to do, what you came
Yeah,
here to do. When
yeah,
you're doing more and more of those things, and how much it takes to actually to even figure that out, what it is of those things. And then when you actually start doing those things, yeah, like you get to come back and share that light that you have, that perspective, that positivity, that creativity with you get to bless everybody that you come into contact with.
yeah, yeah,
It's tangible. Like I know, like when I'm around people like that, I feel different. Like I feel uplifted. That when I didn't have friends like that and I tuned into podcasts and books and stories, I was remembering this week about how ravenous I used to be about finding new authors and new ideas and people that could spark something like new and exciting in my mind. And I
Yeah.
just was like, I loved that. So I love just, yeah, like hearing people talk about new, fresh ideas or ways to approach life. And I think that's something so valuable that, you know, we're doing with this podcast. Is I love that we've made it a weekly commitment, because it just like, okay, every week something's got to happen.
Yeah.
There's, you know, we got to keep sitting in front of this thing. Like, let's just keep this thing going. So even if we don't feel ready, we have to like do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like I heard there's a podcaster that I really like called Noah Lampert. He's got a podcast called Synchronicity.
Mm,
And he stopped doing it for a while just because it started to feel like too much like work. Like there's this obligation. So he was always like, whenever it starts feeling like work, I'm gonna not do it.
right.
Which that also makes a lot of sense. You don't want it to feel like an obligation where you're like, okay, I got to do this robotically, even if I don't feel the inspiration. But
Right.
instead, okay, we've got to do it every week. I've got to do the things during the week to bring inspiration.
Yeah.
I gotta have something to share. I have
Yeah.
to tune in daily, ask to be a channel for something to come through.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love the fact that we get to share this with everybody. And personally, um, I'm inspired after these conversations. You know, it's therapeutic, and
Mm,
it's informative, and it's reassuring. And you know, everybody just needs the reminder sometimes. Even if you're on the right road, sometimes it's nice to get the gentle encouragement at the end of the day. And there's another great quote. It says, "If even if you're on the right road, if you stop and stand there, eventually you're going to get run over." So you always kind of have to keep moving forward.
I
And I
like
think
that.
that's kind of what this podcast is for me. It's regardless of how my week is, you know, you got to take another step in the right direction. Keep going forward.
Yeah, it does. I heard one that said it doesn't matter how slow you go, just don't stop.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly right.